Upon rewatch of the San Francisco 49ers win Sunday night against the Los Angeles Chargers, what did we learn about this team? Jimmy Garoppolo dealing on third downs, pressures from the 49ers defensive line, specifically the numbers that Nick Bosa and Charles Omenihu are putting up. And what about the usage of the 49ers playmakers, running backs, wide receivers in this one? And what can that look like throughout the rest of the season? All that and more coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you at BD Peacock at Eric_Crocker on Twitter. Hit us up for some questions later on in the week. If you're wondering what's going on with your team, you got some comments, hit up on the YouTube comments as well. We might reference some of those on today's episode. Thanks for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is presented by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 5 players. If they score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on that entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's PrizePicks.com, promo code Locked On. Let's start with the offensive side of the ball, Croc. And some of the numbers I've seen from the 49ers on third downs, which is so key. Remember earlier on in the season, some really bad games. They were awful on third downs. Really good games. 49ers are good on third downs. Last night, Sunday night, the 49ers were fantastic on third downs. They were over 50%, in fact, on third downs. And that was the difference, I think, in this football game was third downs for the 49ers offense versus third downs for the Los Angeles Chargers offense. Niners were 9 of 17, over 50% on third downs, and 1 of 1 on fourth downs, by the way. And the Chargers were only about a little better than a third on their efficiency for third downs, 6 of 16 on third downs, which is really big in a closely contested football game, Croc, for drives to stay alive. And the 49ers defense was just so good at getting the Chargers off the field. And even when the 49ers defense didn't go down and score a touchdown, they were still able to get down the field, kick field goals. And again, those 2 field goals, that was the difference in this game.
Yeah, the third down efficiency was something we talked about early on. Whether it was the game against the Broncos, I always in my head want to say Seahawks because Russell Wilson is over there. But the Broncos, the third down efficiency in that game, terrible. And
it was like 1 of 11 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really bad.
Yeah.
Now, where does it start? And I think a lot of people want to talk about Kyle Shanahan and play calling, but I think it starts with Jimmy Garoppolo and being effective and being efficient on third downs. There was a play where we talked about that ad-lib play, extending the play, rolling out to his right, throwing the ball down the field to Ray McLeod. All right, well, that is making a play when need be. And I think we've seen more of that from Jimmy Garoppolo. The touchdown to Christian McCaffrey in the red zone a week ago or so against the LA Rams. That was a third down play, ad-libbing, and just figuring out how to just keep the sticks moving. I think Jimmy Garoppolo, as the season has gone on, has gotten better and better at that.
And it's not just the short, it's not like 3rd and 1s either. We're talking about 3rd and longs here. So this from Nick Wagner, ESPN covers the 49ers. Including Sunday night, the 49ers 5th in the NFL in third down conversions at a 45.6% clip, so just below 50% on third downs. In 3rd in the NFL in third and long situations, long being 7+ yards on third down conversions. They're at 38.5, which is 3rd best in the NFL. And as I mentioned, they were 9 of 17 overall on third down Sunday night. They were 4 of 7 on third and long. From Josh Dubois of Associated Press. More on this with Jimmy Garoppolo on third downs. Jimmy G on 3rd and 8+ Sunday night for the 49ers was 6 of 7 for 90 yards, 4 first downs, and a 118.8 passer rating on those 3rd and 8+. So that's when you're under the most pressure at quarterback, 3rd and 8+. The other team knows you're throwing. They can come after you, and they know you have to have routes that get 8+ yards that you're trying to throw to. So pretty remarkable. So great stuff by the 49ers and Jimmy G on third downs. Josh Dubois went on to say that for the season, Jimmy G's converted on 45.2 of his passes on 3rd and 8+, second best to only Patrick Mahomes, who's at 46 5.9%. So there you go for Jimmy G. For the Jimmy G haters out there, Jimmy's playing pretty good football right now.
Well, I was going to say, too, I think just really if you think back on Jimmy Garoppolo throughout his tenure with the 49ers, that's kind of been the strength of his, even in third and long situations. We talk about wanting to stay ahead of the sticks, and most teams want to, right? And what you mean by that, you don't want to get behind and have those third and long situations. But as long as Jimmy Garoppolo has been with the 49ers, even when he showed up in 2017, that was one of the things that improved drastically, right? You can go back and there was this chart that was floating around during that time where it showed all of Jimmy Garoppolo's numbers. And we can just look at it, from a broad view and see, oh, man, he only threw 6 touchdowns and 5 interceptions in those 5 starts. But when you take a deeper dive into the numbers and how they contributed to wins, like yards per drive were better. Third down conversion rate was better. Yards per play, that was better. So, yeah, you're not getting the big explosive plays down the field, and we're still not getting that. But moving the sticks to where you're getting more points on each drive, which I believe the 49ers had like 5 scoring drives in that game, right? Like you're moving the ball, you're getting in scoring position a lot. I think right now the next step that most people want to see is, can they convert these drives, these extended plays, these third down conversions into more touchdowns, more points?
Yeah, so that's even with the efficiency the 49ers have displayed on offense, can they be more explosive on plays and get some bigger plays? And we didn't even see that many good, big catch and run plays for the 49ers after the catch, which the 49ers should be the best in the league at with the personnel they have on offense. So some more explosives on top of the efficiency, plus better in the red zone. Now you're talking about a team that can go out there and battle with a team and put up 35 points in a game if they have to, right? And that would be the ideal situation for the 49ers. But starting with this efficiency is a pretty good place to be. And a lot was made of, 49ers are, what was the stat? 49ers, I've seen it everywhere now. 49ers are 10-2 when Jimmy Garoppolo throws 0 touchdown passes or something like that. Is that what the stat was? It's like, well, look, dude, and the 49ers obviously want to run the ball well, and 0 touchdowns and 0 interceptions is not a bad place for Jimmy Garoppolo to be if you are getting the ball down the field. He threw a touchdown pass that was dropped, obviously. So a lot of context involved in some of these things. But if you are putting points on the board and you're running the ball well and you're converting third downs and you're giving your team a bunch of scoring opportunities, then that's the important stat rather than how many touchdown passes Jimmy Garoppolo threw.
Yeah, and I'd also say that what we're seeing from Jimmy Garoppolo now is good. And I think this is good enough to win. I think this is good enough to potentially win you a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. This has not been the issue. I think the issue as it pertains to the 49ers and really what the standard is right now and what the 49ers are looking forward to is that postseason, right? A postseason run, trying to win a Super Bowl. That's what the standard is. That was the whole, discussion surrounding Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance, even when Trey Lance was the quarterback. Oh, Jimmy Garoppolo, like he helps you win right now, right? But if the goal is Super Bowl, then it's not so much what Jimmy Garoppolo is doing right now or what he does in the regular season. I think that is actually solid. It's how he has played in the postseason. And the 49ers have won games, but definitely in spite of Jimmy Garoppolo being one of the worst playoff quarterbacks ever, and the worst fourth quarter playoff quarterback ever. We talked about him, and you said, talked about his touchdowns and how that pertains to wins and whatnot. 3 out of 4 of his playoff wins, I don't think he even threw a touchdown. And a lot of them, I think you could look to him as the reason why the game was maybe even closer than it potentially had to be. So it's not about how he's playing right now. Like, it doesn't have to be sexy or whatnot, but can you just get this play, what we saw yesterday, being efficient, throwing for 250 yards on only 19 completions? Can you get that version of Jimmy Garoppolo making the play off script where he's throwing the ball down the field? And you would have had more points where he threw a dart to Brandon Ayuk and hit him in the chest, right, in the end zone. Can you get that version of Jimmy Garoppolo in the postseason? And that's what we just have not seen. And it's not like it's for 1 game or 2 games. There was this big discussion about who is the better quarterback, Alex Smith or Jimmy Garoppolo during their time with the 49ers, and everybody's talking about these. And then it gets to the postseason, and they're like, well, the postseason is the only thing that matters, and everybody remembers the Saints game from Alex Smith. So it's like, oh, he's better than Jimmy Garoppolo. Well, we only saw 2 games in the postseason from Alex Smith. It was the Saints game, and then it was the Giants game where he was 1 for 11 on third downs, and they were missing guys. They had like Brett Swain out there and whatnot. With Jimmy Garoppolo, we've had a much larger sample size. We've seen him 6 times in the postseason, and more times than not, in those 6 appearances, it's not great. So can we just get a normal Jimmy Garoppolo efficiency, playing clean football in the postseason? And if you get that, I think a lot of the complaints about Jimmy Garoppolo will go away.
Yeah, and if he doesn't throw a touchdown, but you're also guaranteeing me that he doesn't throw an interception, I'm probably okay with that, with the way that Kyle Shanahan runs his offense and the running game, and you can find ways to score. So anyway, Jimmy G's playing really good. The 49ers can still be a lot better, though, on offense. So let's talk a little bit about that offensive usage. I want to talk about how good Nick Bosa and Charles Omenihu were upon second reflection Sunday night against the Los Angeles Chargers. But now a word from our sponsors, PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. How easy is it? Well, you can make entries in less than 60 seconds, and you don't have to pick a full team. You're just picking 2 to 5 players. If they score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. So, for example, if you said, I'm going over 210 yards for Jimmy Garoppolo Sunday Night Football, bam, you would have had that in the bag with more than 210 passing yards. You might have had some more thans on Christian McCaffrey that you might not have won in that game. More on some of the usage for 49ers players with so many playmakers right now on the offensive side of the ball. You're not competing against other people. It's just you versus the PrizePicks projections that are available for NFL football. But it's not just NFL projections that you can find at PrizePicks. This is daily fantasy. You can play any day in any sport: NBA, NHL, PGA. We're talking college sports, motor sports, combat sports, MMA, boxing, disc golf, Euro basketball, even cricket, you name it. You can find projections at PrizePicks. Entries can be made quick and easy, and withdrawals are safe and fast. So download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50 more to play with. Don't forget to enter promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. If you've thought about securing your home with a better security system, or you don't have one at all and you've been putting it off, you'll want to listen up here, because right now, Locked On 49ers listeners can get the #1 rated SimpliSafe home security system for 50% off. This is their biggest offer of the year, and you don't want to miss it. And the reasons why we love SimpliSafe, the #1 thing is the crystal clear HD live stream of your security cameras. And you can put those security cameras in any place that you want. And again, it's crystal clear live HD stream. So when you're not at home, you can find out exactly what's going on at home. When you're inside, you can see what's going on outside. And when something does happen, you've got that crystal clear image. And it's not some grainy thing that's unusable. You can see what's going on and who might be doing it to you, right? So any wide variety of high-tech sensors that you can have on any doors or windows in your home, a custom system to fit to your specific needs with SimpliSafe. So don't miss your chance to save big on the only security system we recommend. Get 50% off any new SimpliSafe system at simplisafe.com/LockedOnNFL. Yeah, I said it, 50% off any new SimpliSafe system. This is their biggest discount of the year, so do not wait. That's simplisafe.com/LockedOnNFL. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. Thanks again, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On Sports Today. The biggest games that matter the most, the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts like Eric Crocker and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Seen a lot of questions, Croc, about the usage of the 49ers playmakers, and we were really interested to see how it was going to look. You know, Debo's back in there with Christian McCaffrey. And then after the game, it was like, well, okay, Debo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, and the 49ers came away with the W, and I didn't feel like any one of the three was a major impact player in this game for the 49ers. There was a really big third down catch from George Kittle in that game, but only 2 catches, right, for Kittle?
One catch.
2 targets, one catch.
2 targets.
Yeah. And Debo felt like an afterthought in the offense. Christian McCaffrey gave way to actually more carries for Elijah Mitchell. And Elijah Mitchell was the running back in the game, closing the thing out at the end of the game as well, and got more carries than Christian McCaffrey and was more successful than Christian McCaffrey running the football in that game. And I didn't see as many targets out of the backfield for McCaffrey as I would have expected. So really interesting usage. And you can't take too much from one game, but what should we have expected? What should we expect going forward with the usage from the 49ers playmakers?
Maybe it just might be like that. Each game, somebody else goes out off. And I think that's actually a good thing where you don't have to depend on one player to be the guy every single week, right? If you look at I don't know, I'm just going to hypothetically say the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm not saying they have any issues offensively, but maybe they have to rely entirely on CeeDee Lamb to have an explosive game every week. And if they don't, then there's just going to be this huge lack of production on the field. Well, the 49ers don't have an issue like that because if it's not, quote unquote, CeeDee Lamb or let's say Deebo Samuel, well, then maybe it's George Kittle. Oh, and if it's not George Kittle, then maybe it's Brandon Ayuk. And if it's not Brandon Ayuk, then maybe it's Christian McCaffrey. If it's not Christian McCaffrey, well, maybe it's Elijah Mitchell. So they have multiple guys that can get off at any time. And maybe that's their point where one guy doesn't have to shoulder everything. One guy doesn't have to be the guy every single time. It might hurt your fantasy because they're not going to be force feeding any one guy, but ultimately they'll still get better results. I'd say my biggest gripe with the entire thing really is more so that you would like to see that end up being more points, right? And 22 points, that's fine. Left 4 points on the table with the Ayuk drop. That could have easily been 26 points. But maybe with these type of weapons at your disposal, can you score more? And maybe, lengthen those type of leads that you have, or maybe not have the lulls that you had at different points during the first half. And that's if you want to nitpick any part of that game.
Yeah, and 22 points is always good when the other team only scores 16, But if
Right.
the other team scored 23, if one of those last drives would end up in a touchdown, we'd probably have a very different conversation right now about the 49ers offense and wanting a lot more than just efficiency, right? So
that's a good point because, when you look at it, 22 is obviously more than 16, but, man, and this is a big hypothetical, and we don't want to, create these storylines that aren't there.
Mhm.
But if Herbert, who is talented, who did it last week against the Atlanta Falcons, does push the ball down the field and score on that last drive, then the 49ers are in a much different situation, and the outlook on the offense, the weapons, isn't that big of a deal. And I think those are the things when we start thinking those things, not the what ifs, but just there's still some growing left to do. I think people get on us about, well, you got the win, just be happy with the win. And it's like, no, nobody's upset about the win at all. But, for the standard, and I want to keep going back to that, the standard is Super Bowl win. That's what the 49ers want to do. So what does a Super Bowl winning team, what does a Super Bowl winning offense look like throughout the season? And I would say probably a better version of what we saw last night.
Yeah, just finish a couple drives better. Even if you're not hitting like passes down the field, breaking one of these, maybe Debo breaks one, maybe Christian McCaffrey breaks one, and just a little more explosive. So a little more explosive, red zone efficiency on top of what we just saw, third down efficiency, run the ball pretty well, and you're golden. Like, you don't need to be the, Buffalo Bills or the Kansas City Chiefs when they're really firing and they're slinging the ball all over the place. The 49ers don't need to be that, and they really can't be that. But one thing I will say about the usage of the playmakers is clearly when you're watching the game, there is an emphasis by opposing defenses to pay attention to what Debo and Christian McCaffrey are doing back there. And I think that opens things up for Elijah Mitchell. It opens things up for Juwan Jennings and opens things up for Brandon Ayuk to be singled up. You can't put extra guys on 5 players. You don't have 20 guys on defense, right? So I think part of the usage is, well, it's going to be up to Ayuk and Jennings and Elijah Mitchell sometimes to make a play because the other teams are going to try to take away Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey in this offense. And you can tell when you're watching the game, man, they make those play fakes work a lot better when you're faking it to Deebo, when you're faking it to Christian McCaffrey. And so which is why I really love the look of both of them in the backfield together, which was McCaffrey, the play where McCaffrey goes in motion, then it's Debo the other way. Like those kind of plays, I think are going to work really well because I think it messes with the minds of the defenders if they're trying to key on those guys. But we're going to see a lot of Juwan Jennings and Brandon Ayuk singled up. So I think that's why they were asked to make plays, and they did a pretty good job of it, aside from, a couple of, a drop and a fumble here or there.
So I have a question.
Okay.
All right. And those of you that are listening on the pod or watching on YouTube, you can answer this as well. Already right now, you see the abundance of weapons the 49ers have, and I think the response to maybe some of the lack of touches or targets for other guys is, well, there's only one ball to go around. So right now I'm seeing in the news Odell Beckham. He's pretty much in play for the 49ers, right? Like that's out there. Jay Glazer reported it originally saying Odell potentially could be going to the 49ers. Right before the game, I saw something else come out and say the 49ers are in the mix, and it almost feels as if Odell decides if he wants to go to the 49ers or the Packers or one of these other teams. So it's on the table potentially that he can come here. Do you say, no, Odell, stay away because already there's a shortage of targets for guys, and we just saw what potentially you can get from Juwan Jennings and what he looked like in this game. And I think he caught 4 passes, and they were key passes, and he's run after catch looks good. Or do you say, even then, you can have a little bit more in this offense if you have Odell out there and you're talking about singling him up, right? Like if you're a team or defense playing against the 49ers offense, would you say, you know what, let's say you got Odell on the field and Juwan Jennings, and you have to give one guy more attention. Who would you give more attention to? Juwan Jennings or Odell Beckham?
Yeah, probably still Odell, but now you got me worried because did Debo get hurt with this lineup you got on the field, Croc?
Well, no, what I'm
did
saying
Ayuk
is
get hurt. What happened here? How did we get Odell and Juwan Jennings on the field together? They're going 4 wide. You got no Christian McCaffrey on the field. What's this formation in your head?
That formation in my head is.
I know that wasn't part of the question. I was just trying to picture.
It's a make believe offense, but just in the sense of who would you rather have out there?
Right.
Because if you're saying if I have just Juwan Jennings and Odell, and I'm going to give more attention to Odell, then what about having Odell in there, not Juwan Jennings, but you having to give more attention to Ayuk and Debo and McCaffrey and Kittle, and the guy that you would ideally want to give more attention to now you can't. Because it's not Juwan Jennings, it's Odell Beckham.
Oh, yeah. And so to answer the question, I'm not turning down Odell Beckham. If he decides 49ers, then you figure it out, right? But I'd be shocked if Odell doesn't say, yeah, give me the Cowboys because they throw it 35 times a game and they need a number 2. Whereas the 49ers, you're just going to be another guy in the mix, and you might get a target or 2 a game. I don't know.
Another guy in the mix might be better. When I signed with the San Jose SaberCats, it won that ring, right? But when I signed with the San Jose SaberCats, one thing that they told me, and again, everybody I just came off of a season where I had 11 interceptions. So everybody was calling me. As soon as free agency started, boom, my phone was blowing up. I'm like, damn, everybody's calling me, offering me contracts, etc. The San Jose SaberCats were the only team that said, you don't have to be the guy here. You could just be part of it. And our goal is Super Bowl. Like, we have no other goal. It's Super Bowl. And you just be a part of it. You'll just be a piece to the puzzle. But the other teams, oh, man, we're going to put you on billboards. You're going to be this. You're going to do that. You're going to be the guy. You're going to be the leader. I went to where I was just a piece. And I could play my role and play it at a high level and hopefully get a ring out of it. And that's what happened. So maybe Odell thinks that way as well.
That's a good selling point. I like that one, Croc. You trying to win a title, or are you trying to wear some stinky silver and blue uniforms? Right?
That doesn't even match. Can we talk about that? The Cowboys, they got royal blue stars, but then they got navy blue stripes on their pants, and then they got royal blue numbers here. But then if they wear their navy blue uniforms, then it's all over.
Sometimes the pants
like
are silver.
Shark silver or something.
Yeah, that weird, almost Seahawks looking silvery color. It's bad. It's a bad look. Yeah. It's for sure a bad look. All right, we got to move along here. I want to talk about the defensive pressures by Nick Bosa and Charles Omenihu and why it was so important to the 49ers victory Sunday night. But first, I always love the opportunity to talk about our friends at Built Bar. Can we pause for a second and just think about what these flavors are? And we're talking about bars that are high in protein, low in sugar, and low in calories. Shockingly low in sugar and calories, in fact. Flavors like cookie dough topper, coconut brownie bar, coconut brownie topper. How about white chocolate peppermint granola for the holidays? Yes, Built Bar's making granola bars as well, taking that to the next level. More filling granola bar, but still insanely tasty. Candy cane brownie, another flavor. Candy cane brownie puff. How about that? So you've got granola, you've got puffs, you've got the standard Built Bars, which are still my favorites. The universe's most delicious cloud is how some people explain the Built Bar puffs. So the revolutionizing nutrition is what Built Bar is doing. Most of these Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate, and we're talking real chocolate too. It doesn't feel like you're getting something fake out there. You're getting 100% real chocolate, 17 grams of protein in most Built Bars, and again, low sugar and low calories, only 130 calories in most Built Bars. And with our promo code, you can get 15% off a box of Built Bars to try for yourself, whatever flavor you want, or even a mixed box of Built Bars. You got to try them. So go to Built, get 15% off your order right now by using promo code LOCKEDON15 at Built.com. Again, that is promo code LOCKEDON15 at Built.com. How about this? So we gave a game ball to Omenihu. Did not give, it was a true team win, and I think we're kind of orchestrating it right now, talking about the usage, talking about Elijah Mitchell being a part of it, and big catches, even though it wasn't high volume for George Kittle or Juwan Jennings. Big third down plays. Brandon Ayuk had some really big catches in that game. It was a total team victory. Fred Warner, we didn't even talk much about. Jimmy Ward, we didn't talk a lot about, who made some big plays in that game last night. But how about the 49ers defensive line? Nick Bosa had 9 pressures in that game. He did have another sack as well. Charles Omenihu, maybe the biggest play of the game, hitting Justin Herbert's arm with a minute left to go. That ended up in the with the Talanoa Hufanga interception. Charles Omenihu had 6 pressures in that game. Compared to the rest of the D-line, Jordan Willis had a couple of pressures. Drake Jackson had 1. Fred Warner had 1. Azeez Al-Shaair had 1. And T.Y. McGill had 1. But 6 in comparison for Charles Omenihu, and 9 pressures from Nick Bosa in that game. I just want to shout out, just because we didn't really talk about Nick Bosa, and you could probably give him a game ball any week that you want, but it was a really good outing by those 2 players specifically on the 49ers defensive line, and that was part of the reason why the 49ers were able to get off the field so well on third downs when the Chargers had the ball. So third downs on offense and third downs on defense is what won that game for the 49ers.
Yeah, and as we got off last night and stopped recording, my mind went straight to, damn, we didn't give Nick Bosa a game ball. And it was almost one of those things where I feel like the guys that you can kind of give a game ball to every single game, they kind of become an afterthought a little bit, right? I think people think of it as kind of oh, man, you're showing Jimmy Garoppolo love, but it is kind of like, hey, man, Jimmy Garoppolo continues to get these game balls because it's like, hey, I'm excited about how he's playing. Whereas Nick Bosa, you just know how he's going to play. You know he's going to bring it every single game. And I started thinking about the game and how much attention the Chargers had to give to him, how he's chasing guys down from the backside. We talk about the sack. They had to chip him every time. A running back had to be accountable for him. Okay, where's Nick Bosa? Okay, let me motion to the other side and then line up next to him and then chip him before I go out for a route. So teams have to game plan around Nick Bosa, their entire offense. He's special. He's amazing. And I do think he's one of those guys. Like last year, it was Deebo Samuel. Every week, we could give Deebo Samuel a game ball. And it was just like, it got to the point where it's like, all right, let's think of other guys and different reasons as why I want to give other guys game balls that's not named Deebo Samuel. I think it's the same thing for Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa has an infinity game ball, probably as long as he's a 49er. He's just, there's so much special things.
I brought up a stat on last night's Rapid React show about about Charles Omenihu and his I think the stat is from Brandon Thorne, and the stat is high quality sacks per snap, and Charles Omenihu was shockingly, kind of surprisingly in the top 10 of interior defensive linemen. But how about this stat, as brought to my attention by our buddy, friend of the program, Akash Anavarathan from Niners Nation. This is pass rush win rates this season per Pro Football Focus. Myles Garrett is number one. He's creating a pressure. He's winning his pass rush set against the offensive lineman at a 26.3% clip. Number two in the entire NFL behind Myles Garrett is Nick Bosa at 25.4%. Then it's Zadarius Smith. And then fourth in the NFL, Croc, at pass rush win rate is Charles Omenihu at 22%. Wow. So that's
where's Micah Parsons?
I think he's next. I think Micah Parsons might be. I think it's Parsons. Looking at this, Parsons, Von Miller, and Max Crosby are behind those guys.
Okay. Yeah, and Parsons doesn't get as many rushes as the other guys, not as much opportunity, but that just kind of shows at the rate he's winning. So I just wanted to know that for all my Cowboy fans that are out there.
Yeah. And Micah Parsons, we were talking about this on Peacock and Williamson earlier today. Micah Parsons should not be playing off-ball linebacker as much as he is. This guy's so dynamic as a pass rusher. He should be getting after the quarterback on every down possible.
It almost feels like if he was a full-time edge rusher, he'd get 25 sacks in the season.
Yeah, and he might still be Defensive Player of the Year this year. Like Micah Parsons, freakish, and I think he's kind of banged up right now as well. But yeah, on a per snap rate, I mean, this just illustrates how good Charles Omenihu is playing right now.
Yeah, Omenihu playing extremely well. He's a big guy. I saw a video of him coming out of the tunnel, and he's next to like Deebo Samuel. And I'm like, gosh, that guy is massive. Yeah. And you can't always tell, when they're on the field and he's next to guys that are like him. But when you see him next to Deebo Samuel, who's closer to 6 foot than whatever Omenihu is, if I had to guess right now, I'd say, what is he, 6'6"? I mean, the guy's huge.
He might be taller than he might be 6'7". He's really tall. He's similar. He's very similar to Eric Armstead, in fact. And it's, as far as his usage, like, because he's kind of a big end, but we're seeing a lot of his really good pass rush reps coming from inside, and exactly how it was with Eric Armstead, right? He was kind of like a full-time end, but a bigger end, really good against the run. But then you move him inside on third downs, and he's long and limber and athletic and can win some of these reps against interior offensive linemen who are used to seeing a very different body type coming at you. So you get those two twin towers on third downs on the interior. If Eric Armstead can ever come back, then you'd be cooking. They just need a little short.
He's listed at 6'5", 280.
6'5",
He's listed at 6'5", 280, which, I mean, that is massive.
Yeah.
Right? They got a lot of big guys down there. And for him to be as fluid as he is, he's not just this big, stiff guy or slow-moving guy. Like, he put a pass rush move on someone last night. I wish I could remember the exact play, but it was beautiful.
Two-hand swipe? That was my favorite one.
Yeah.
It was the two-hand swipe against the rookie first-round guard, Zion Johnson.
Zion Johnson, yeah.
And that was what's so tough for Herbert in this game, because Herbert's so good at stepping up in the pocket. So he would drop back, step up in the pocket, and then Omenihu would still get his arm. Or Nick Bosa's sack was like a second effort sack where he kind of beat him around the corner, or he didn't win around the corner, but he came back underneath and got Herbert after he had stepped up in the pocket. And so that was so huge on those third down plays, on those passing plays, to not let Herbert have time, because with his arm, he can find people if they have time to get open in some crazy places on the field. And that puts so much pressure on the defensive secondary. And he made some of those throws in the first drive, and he stopped being able to make those, I think, because of so many pressures.
And also, as it pertains to Justin Herbert, and shout out to Troy Hyde, one of the listeners of the show, he actually hit Peacock and I on Twitter and mentioned this, and this was something that I kind of forgot about a little bit, but Herbert was coming off of like a nasty injury, and it happened, I don't know if you remember, I was watching him live, it was a primetime game, and he could barely finish the game, and people were like, wow, how is he even in this game? It looked like he broke ribs, broken spleen, busted spleen, whatever it was. It looked very serious. And I think right now he's finally kind of recovering from that. So he's a guy who hasn't been 100%. I mean, shoot, early on, he looked like he was 100% though, right?
He did. I mean, I wish, like, how fun is that to have that if it's not even 100%? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that'd be nice to have. I'm looking at Charles Omenihu's combine right now because I was curious. He had a pretty amazing combine. So he's 6'5.5", 280 pounds at the combine. I think he was more like 290 when the 49ers traded for him.
So 6'5.5", real quick, Peacock. 6'5.5" in the real world is closer to like almost 6'7", right? Like, because NFL, the way they measure you, it's like, no shoes on. You got to get against the wall. You got to put your toes up, and they kind of like smush you down, and then they get your height. So if you get 6'5.5" in the NFL, you're really a big dude, like, to normal people. Because anybody that's next to me, one thing that a lot of people say, even our guy Evan Sowers, shout out to our guy Evan Sowers, he was like, oh, Croc is hella tall in person. Because in person, I'm just taller than him. right? But
Yeah.
I bet Evan Sowers has told everybody his whole life, hey, I'm 6'1". And I tell everybody my whole life, I'm 6'1", and I'm actually a little bit taller than him. Well, NFL says, Eric, you are 6 foot even. And nobody that has seen me in person would say that I'm 6 foot even, right? I mean, you've seen me in person. There's nobody would say I'm 6 foot even.
I would
But
definitely
that's what
say you're closer to 6'2" than 6 even.
Right.
Yeah.
So when they say Omenihu is a 6'5.5", just know that looks a lot taller in person.
Yeah, that's 6'8" in the NBA because they measure you with shoes on in the NBA too, and they like their guys to be listed tall in the NBA. In the NFL, they underlist, I think, a lot of times with height. How about this though? At 6'5.5", 280, he had a 36.5-inch vertical jump.
Wow. Yeah,
That's
that
crazy,
is kind of
right?
freakish. Yeah.
Isn't that surprising? And 4.92 in the 40. So anybody 280 plus at that height is going under sub 5 in the 40 is pretty remarkable. So
and he went high though. So I mean, this isn't a guy for those reasons why a guy Omenihu that I don't remember him coming out, but the fact that he was somebody that went high. I want to say, what was he, a second round pick?
I don't think it was that high. I think it might have been
it was. Let's see.
I think it was middle rounds.
Let's see
out of Texas. I would have remembered if he was.
Okay, never mind. You're right. Round 5.
Fifth round. Okay, fifth round.
Houston. Yeah. Okay.
But a really good player. And yeah, 6'5", 280, 36.5-inch vertical.
And he's young,
Was
too,
he on the
25
basketball
years
team
old.
too? Because that's kind of freaky, right?
Yeah. 25 years old. So he's still young.
Yeah.
It feels like he's been with the 49ers a couple years now. Did 49ers get him in the middle of last year, or was it the year before?
Yeah, he was deadline last year. So he's only been on the team for about a year, I think, right? Or was it right before the season started?
So he might be a guy that, do you say, all right, let's give this guy a 3-year extension?
Yeah, if you can get a good number on it, because if he keeps playing like this and he starts getting starters reps, because you want to be able to pay him as like a 5th defensive lineman, right? He's like a big end, but can come in and rush, but he's not one of your starting 4. So if you can pay him that, he's well worth it. Absolutely bring him along for a long-term deal if you can. But another team might go out there and watch him and be like, yeah, we want to give him starters money. And it's like, starts to get tough because you're paying a lot of dudes.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, good stuff. Thanks everybody for making Locked On 49ers your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On Sports Today. Check out Eric Crocker doing Locked On NFL Draft every day here on the network. Me and Matt Williamson, the Peacock and Williamson NFL show, talking about the entire league every single day. Locked On Podcast Network style. Croc and I back tomorrow, Winky Wednesday. Locked On 49ers.